Hello, this is Wolf. Today I want to talk about two hallmarks of the way Japanese like to train, not only in karate but in sports and even in other fields, which are all-out exertion and effort on the one hand, and a lot of repetitive recapping moves again and again and again. Now, I want to make two preliminary remarks. Make no mistake, I love Shotokan as it is. It is as it is, straight, direct, no nonsense. Even on the aesthetic point of view, it is very clean, crisp and elegant, and every critical remarks I will make in regard to karate or Shotokan karate in particular, they are meant in order to ameliorate Shotokan, to make it more complete, to smoothen out some sharp edges and things. This is the one thing, and the other one is that some of my remarks might not sound pertinent for young, strong, fit athletes, and that of course is due to the fact that I'm in my mid-60s. And Kanazawa Soke said to me, when you get older, there will be techniques that you might not be able to perform anymore, but you will gain insights and new understandings that will only come with age. So I hope that I'm inspired, that my things that I'm talking about come from getting mature in the practice, and this inspires me to find new ways in order to make Shotokan possible as a lifelong practice and a path of life. And so we go into the 2 points that I mentioned. The one thing is that I also learned Tai Chi from Kanazawa Sensei, and in this study I came across an interesting rule that exists in Chinese martial art circles, which is obviously called the 70% rule. I came across it in a book by the very renowned Tai Chi and Qigong master Bruce Francis, Opening the Energy Gates of Your Body. And there he says, the 70% rule. In any Tai Chi or Qigong exercise, first estimate what 100% of your physical capacity is in terms of range of movement or time or practice. In this case, how far? Once you determine this, you then only move or practice to approximately 70% of your capacity. This percentage is not rigid, and the appropriate amount could be anywhere from 60 to 80% depending on your condition. Now, staying in the range of around 2/3 of your full potential in your regular training seems to be a wise and health-preserving precept to me, and it reminded me instantly of a remark by the well-known father of practical karate, Motobu Chôki, yeah, and this is the excellent translation by Andreas Quast, and he says the following: since ancient times in Shuri, at the initial stage of practice, it was made a principle to practice with 60% of the maximum power, and with the single-minded purpose of speed. Now, in the original, I looked it up, it says chikara no Rokubu no chikara, and hitasura binkatsu o mesasu. So this binkatsu is also in an annotation by Andreas Quast given as agility, spryness, quickness, legerity, lissomness, rapidity. Now, we can infer from this that probably in the olden times, Shuri-te was practiced in a much more relaxed, nimble, lithesome way than it is practiced nowadays, and Shotokan mainly comes from Shuri-te. Of course, this remark was made in contrast to the manner you train in Goju-ryu, where you exert 100% of your power quite often. And this, actually, he talks about Nahate, because at the time Goju-ryu was not yet born. And now, the thing is that training in Japanese dojos usually are not conducted with this 3 or 2/3 of power exertion in mind, but rather it's always giving it all, going to the end, giving 100% of what you have and things like that. So I talked about the hardening and harshening of karate practice on the main islands last time, and I will bring in one more thing which is connected to the Japanese mentality. And even nowadays, I mean, when you go to Okinawa is in a sense the Hawaii of Japan. Yeah, in Okinawan dojos the atmosphere is much more relaxed. Also, training is much more individualized and not as rigid as on the main island. And so what happened? Yeah, there is something which is even now part of the Japanese everyday language. It is called ganbarism. This term is a hybrid of the Japanese verb gambaru and ism from English, and ganbarism would be the English pronunciation possibly, and this describes a mentality which I would call the all-out effort syndrome. Yeah, it comes from the verb gambaru, which can mean different things, mostly to keep it up, to soldier on, to make an effort, give the best, persevere, work hard, and stuff like that. And gambate or gambare, which is the imperative, is used as a greeting, and you hear it all the time when you go out of the house and go to school or go to sports or any other pursuit. People say, give your best, yeah, gambare, break a leg, yeah. And this is connected to what also has been described as seishin shugi, as kind of spiritualism, and this also is a syndrome that describes the belief in the supremacy, notably of the Japanese, spirit over matter. It's associated with willpower, perseverance, endurance, guts, fearlessness, fighting spirit, all these kind of things. That was nurtured, of course, in the wartime as an ideology for the whole population. And this ganbarism is something that is very, very deeply ingrained in the Japanese psyche. And of course, this is accentuated in martial art circles and in martial arts dojo when it comes to training. And this societal expectation of permanent exertion and diligence, yeah, it permeates the sports, it permeates the working place, and you are supposed to give it all at all time. Yeah, one should not give up, no matter how hard and demanding the training is. Yeah, you would rather drop dead than throw in the towel. There is no mercy, no tolerance for individual limits too. Yeah, and the collective military drill that was introduced, of course, was conducive to this kind of to these tendencies. And in a sense, doing something with total dedication and concentration is something that is highly estimated in Japan, even if it's a little task like, I don't know, cleaning the house or sweeping the pathway of a garden or something. Yeah. Now, this single-mindedness or doggedness permeates the Japanese martial ways, and it was brought over to the Western shores when karate came to the US and Europe. Yeah? In the US, many of the first karateka who came back from Japan, they were ex-soldiers. Yeah? And in Europe there were many coming from other martial disciplines, namely wrestling, boxing, judo. My first Western karate teacher was formerly Kyokushinkai and switched to Shotokan. They were all very tough cookies. And even in the 1970s when I started, there were no kids, there were no elderly people, almost no women in the dojo. I was, as a teenager, a total exception. Yeah? The clientele were mostly bloodthirsty alpha males in their 20s and 30s, yeah? And they relished this boot camp atmosphere in the karate training and this harsh Japanese special forces kind of regimen was widely accepted. Yeah? Training was all the time pretty hell-bent on full power and full commitment. Yeah? Even when you think of the first instructors from the JKA who were sent abroad, they were all wonderful athletes. Yeah? There was kind of an unwritten rule that they should have won the All Japan Championship at least once before they go to foreign countries as instructors. And so it was the best sportsmen, the best athletes that went out. Yeah? And they brought the discipline and they brought the harsh training. They endured themselves to the Western people. And in the first decades, they made no compromises, yeah, in the training. And as I said, the clientele did, in a sense, didn't resist. They were enchanted by this exotic flair and the Eastern law and all that. Yeah. Nowadays it has changed radically, particularly because the most important clientele in many dojos are the kids. Yeah, they bring in the money. It's for commercial reasons now. It has to be playful and all the rest of it. However, the training atmosphere of full power performance and hard drive is still quite alive. And now I say, this part, the exertion, should be done in moderation. Yeah, and I think in many dojos it is the case anyway. So you do give 100% in certain situations, when you take an exam, testing, yeah, when you go to competitions, when you make demonstrations and things, you give it all 100%, wonderful. Yeah, you do it in order to test out your limits and probably even go over your limits, which is a very satisfactory experience and very good for young athletes. Yeah, but it should not be the motto of your daily training. Yeah, do your daily training with 2/3, around 70% of exertion. Sometimes give it the full power, sometimes even slow down more, get more introspective, look at what happens with your body, and moderate, temperate, modulate the tempo with which you and the exertion that you put into your training. Now, this is the one thing which is in a sense connected with the belief that repetition will lead to mastery, and even in other Japanese sports, be it baseball or anything else. Particularly they excel in technical disciplines, yeah, where you can train little units of technical skills repeatedly and recap them and doing them over and over again. And I was once invited into a Flamenco school, yeah, and they actually split up every little move and every little hand clap and whatever, and did an isolated training of practice of these things and put them together again afterwards. Yeah, so this is also a part of Japanese mentality. Yeah, that they like to do it in little bits and then put out the whole thing together again, and the little bits are done again and again and again. Yeah. Interestingly, there was a judoka, Higashi Shintaro, yeah, who said that this repetitive training is in many ways counterproductive. Yeah, and this in Japan, this is blasphemy, you know. And he especially addressed the 1,000 uchikomi challenge. Yeah, so uchikomi you do in judo when you go into your partner in order to throw him. And in karate you can do 1,000 gyakuzuki or whatever it is, yeah? So, and of course, repetition has its good effects, yeah? It leads to mastery of skills, it increases speed, it makes move automatic, yeah? It strengthens the neural pathways, yeah? It fosters willpower and many other good things. However, the problem is that it can, yeah, ingrain bad habits. Yeah, it is not in a context. So in non-scripted, dynamic sparring or fighting situations, the one and only way to move that you have trained so often doesn't necessarily work, and mental and physical fatigue lead to the failure to analyze what is happening. Yeah, you are not putting enough attention into it anymore, and on top of it, of course, it bears the risk of injury and wear and tear, particularly when you overdo it. Therefore, this repetitive training in excess is definitely not commendable for people of an older age. And so in training we should maybe, particularly when you get older or when you're already on a certain skill level, yeah, thinking that repeating alone will speed you up. It won't, not only in a very, very marginal way. So rather do 10, 20 repetitions with an introspective mind, yeah, full attention, mindfulness, yeah, than 100 sloppy repetitions, yeah. So it is again quality over quantity, yeah. I'm not against repetition. Of course, we have the same concepts in the Western world. We say practice makes perfect, or the old Latin adage goes, repetitio est mater studiorum. Yeah, the repetition is the mother of all studies. Yeah, but as I say, if you go to the excess, yeah, it has counterproductive effects. So what I say, repetition with cognition, exertion in moderation, and then both have their place in our training, but they are not defining the whole way how we train and how we practice. And as I said, in the first hours of the transfer of karate to the Western lands, yeah, these Japanese practices were introduced, and at the time the Japanese teachers, as far as I experienced it, yeah, they were adored like semi-gods, and nobody had the courage to criticize them and everybody was extremely eager to learn this mystical Eastern craft, and everybody did what was demanded. This mindset, of course, has changed, and I would say it is good if we, particularly as Westerners, with a certain analytical thinking, with a skeptical way to view things, with a scientific kind of approach, we should use these capacities in order to analyze, criticize, and, if we can, make things better. Yeah? So, and in the sense of my today's remarks, I would rather say hang loose than hang in on their ganbatte. Yeah? So, hang loose.